What is up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 13 of the Downtown Browntown podcast. I am your host, Downtown Brown. Today, we're going to cover all things Bucks in the last week and a half here. Been quite the up and down saga this last week and a half. You know, the Bucks having a really tough road trip. The weekend before this past weekend when they lost to Charlotte on Saturday night. In a loss on Friday against the Pelicans. I mean, couldn't get much worse than that. But obviously we follow up with a 4-game win streak here, taking out the Portland Trailblazers, Indiana Pacers at home, followed by 2 nice wins against the Cleveland Cavaliers back-to-back on the road. So we got a tough road trip coming here with Denver tonight, Phoenix on Wednesday, Utah on Friday, and Oklahoma City on Sunday. That's going to be a very tough road trip for the Bucks here, but I think we're seeing a lot of positive things, and we'll go over some of those things here shortly. I'm going to go over a little bit of a roster rundown on just what I'm seeing from the guys who are getting minutes, and maybe some things that we need to see, or some things that have really just stuck out to me and have shown some success for us in these last 4 wins here. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start off with the rough performance the weekend before this past weekend, where the Bucks lost to the Pelicans and the Charlotte Hornets back-to-back nights on the road. I mean, giving up 20-plus threes a game is not going to cut it in today's NBA, and the Bucks were the first team in league history to give up 20 threes in 3 consecutive games, and they did that those 2 games and then the win against Toronto that week as well. So, I mean, it's tough to win those games, you know. You come out against New Orleans Friday night, nationally televised game on ESPN, and Eric Bledsoe just came to play. Obviously, I had a feeling he was going to play well, wanting to get revenge on the Bucks from trading him. But, I mean, him hitting 7 threes, Lonzo Ball hitting 7 threes. I mean, it's going to be tough to win a game like that. And they got down by 30 in that game in the first half. I mean, they almost came back and won it, which is pretty remarkable. And it showed that this Bucks team has a lot of fight in them, and definitely some positive things to take away from that. But again, when you're down that much in a game, it's going to be hard to win. And the Bucks just got themselves in too big of a hole. Zion played extremely well. Steven Adams had 18 rebounds. I mean, it's going to be tough to win a game like that. So, you know, and then you think, okay, the Bucks are just going to come back Saturday night and dominate the Charlotte Hornets, you know. Not a super good team. I mean, they're young, they're scrappy. I mean, you got guys like Terry Rozier, who, Scary Terry as they call him, who has dominated the Bucks when he was on the Boston Celtics in the past. LaMelo Ball's been a good young player for them. You got guys like a Miles Bridges, who is an athletic freak. I mean, Gordon Hayward is borderline an all-star this season, has played extremely well for the Charlotte Hornets after him getting a huge contract, 3 years, 120, or 4 years, 120 million. So that's a team that's going to play hard every night, and they came to play, and the Bucks came out flat once again, getting down 20 plus early in the game, and that was one where, you know, they'd come back. They'd get it, you know, within range. They finally got it within single digits, and then bam, the Charlotte Hornets would just break out again and take that game under control. So just really frustrating. I mean, obviously the 2 main takeaways from those 2 losses were 3-point defense. I mean, just not getting up on shooters, not contesting shots as well, just being lazy, missing defensive assignments. I mean, we're all asking for Coach Budenholzer to make adjustments this season, and he has. But a lot of Bucks fans are still frustrated, like, oh, we're losing games, you know, like, why are we doing this now? Why are we switching on defense? This is what we've been asking all along. We can't be getting upset at him making adjustments, because we all know that our regular season dominance has not translated to the postseason the last 2 years. So, again, he's making adjustments. Bucks fans should be ecstatic about that. I am ecstatic about it. I mean, we need to toy with our schemes, specifically on defense, to find out what works. And it's going to look ugly at times. And it obviously looked ugly about 10 days ago, you know, when they lost those 2 games. So again, 3-point defense and just bad turnovers, just wasted possessions, consecutive possessions in a row where it's turnovers, turnovers, turnovers. I mean, the Bucks, especially in the fourth quarter, in that Charlotte game, I mean, they turned it over a lot of times. I don't know the specific number, but it was a joke. I mean, it looked like the Bucks from a few years ago, back in the early when we got Greg Monroe and we had Jabari Parker, Michael Carter Williams, that squad, when I was in college. I mean, just so many turnovers, 3+ turnovers in a row. I mean, you can't have that in today's NBA, specifically in the fourth quarter. And when you're giving up 20+ 3-pointers a game, I mean, there's no way you're going to win a game like that. So clearly those were the two biggest takeaways from those losses. Not too much positive to take away from them. And again, the Bucks probably took that to the drawing board, and what do they do? Come out against Portland at home this past Monday and dominated them. I mean, they gave up, I think it was 6 early threes in the first quarter. I was like, oh God, here we go again. 20+ threes, gonna break another record, giving 20+ threes in 4 consecutive games. But the Bucks really clamped down. Jrue Holiday has got Damian Lillard's number. I mean, I mentioned this in prior episodes that Jrue Holiday's best postseason performance, he doesn't have many, but they swept the Portland Trailblazers, did the New Orleans Pelicans when they were the 6th seed. Portland was a 3 seed. They swept them, and Jrue Holiday was dominant on both offense and defense, shut Damian Lillard down, just took that series for himself, and they dominated. So he's got his number. There's definitely things, like I said, that series alone proved it. So Jrue really clamped him down and just played exceptional defense on Damian Lillard. He is a tough guard. I mean, he can shoot from the logo, as we all see, hitting ridiculous threes. He had that logo 3 against the Bulls, followed by a game winner, in that same game. And, the last minute of the game, the dude is a freak. So he is almost impossible to guard, but Jrue really did a great job and frustrated him. So the Bucks came out and just looked like they were focused on defense. They were getting up on guys, not giving them, just easy looks. And they were making tough contested shots in those first 6 threes that they made. I mean, a couple of them, we missed a few assignments, but the other few, Dante had his hand in the face. Jrue had his hand in the shooter's face, and they just knocked him down. And that's going to happen sometimes. You got to live with that. Better offense always beats better defense. Like when you hit a shot like that, you just got to tip your cap and be like, wow, that was ridiculous, and move on. You can live with stuff like that. Damian Lillard is going to hit those ridiculous 3-pointers. It's just going to happen. So, but I thought the Bucks really clamped down on defense. I think they only allowed 13 threes in that game. And, our shots were falling, obviously. When our shots fall and we're stopping other teams from making shots, we're going to win most of those games. And that was the recipe for the Bucks win against the Blazers. In my roster rundown here, I'll highlight a few guys that have really been excelling both on the offensive and defensive end of the court. But again, when we're making shots, we're going to win. Bobby Portis was absolutely fantastic in that game. His offensive spark coming off the bench is just so huge for this team. Putting up 18 points off the bench in 20 minutes? That's ridiculous. He's been absolutely fantastic for the Bucks, both offensively, and I think his defense is coming around a little bit. He is a more versatile big on defense than a Brook Lopez. He can switch off of a few guys. He moves his feet pretty well. I think he just struggles a little bit with some quicker guys. It's tough to guard, these Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard type guys who are just have that burst when they get the ball and can pull up from 30, and make these shots. It's tough to guard those guys. And I think Portis is really, not only using his energy on the offensive end, but the defensive end as well. And it's proven to be a huge success for the Bucks. Brook Lopez he's been getting better at this whole switching concept. I thought he had some really nice blocks, and just not trying to get into defenders' faces a little too much. He's used to dropping back in the lane when there's a high pick and roll at the 3, but now he's been switching and just knowing where he needs to be, staying off the ball, and just kind of letting the play come to him and hopefully block that shot, which is his specialty. And I thought he did that really well. He had a great block on Dame Lillard in that win for the Bucks. So he's going to be, I'll talk about Brook Lopez a little later, but I think that, there's some things that he obviously does really well for us, but again, there's just things that don't really work super well for him in this offense, and we'll figure that out. But again, he's going to be a guy who's going to be, he's our anchor. We don't have a 7-foot monster like him, so he's going to be really important to us. So now we'll talk a little bit about the Pacers win. The Bucks dominated the Pacers. I mean, they were up 40 in that game, and obviously the bench crew, the DJ Wilsons, Thanasis, even Jalen Adams now is getting some garbage time minutes since Jordan Nwora and Sam Merrill have went down to the G League, which I think is great. We need those guys to get minutes, and if it's not going to be in the NBA, the G League is the next best thing for them. So just for them to be able to play, I think it's worthwhile for them. They need to be getting minutes, and I think they showed some things on offense, but they looked very lost out there at times, and that's what you're going to expect a lot of the times from a second-round draft pick in the NBA. So just for them to be able to get some minutes and hopefully dominate down there is a great thing for them. So obviously now we've got Jalen Adams as our third point guard, who has been suiting up for all of the games since they went down to the G League, and he's going to be getting some garbage time minutes. So if you guys aren't familiar with him, look out for Jalen Adams the next time the Bucks are dominating someone, getting those garbage time fourth quarter minutes. Hopefully tonight against Denver, but that we will see what happens. So I thought the Bucks played super well against the Pacers. The thing that I really noticed from that game is that it's not just the drop coverage defense that I've talked about numerous times on this podcast. I think that they're finally starting to not overhelp when guys are driving to the lane. So let me explain. The Bucks had a really nice play where there was a pick and roll between Brogdon and Sabonis. Brogdon had the ball, Sabonis picked him, and then they passed it up to Sabonis at the top of the three. And Brook Lopez was defending him, and Sabonis, a lot quicker than Brook Lopez, obviously put his head down, tried to get to the hole and score. A lot of times when that happens, let me back up. He was obviously a one step ahead of Brook Lopez, but Lopez was still kind of there in shot blocking range, so he didn't get necessarily beat, but he obviously was a little bit behind Sabonis and was in a little bit of a precarious situation there. But a lot of times when that happens, whether it's Brook defending or Giannis or Middleton or Drew or Dante or what have you, the guys who are, guarding other players will sometimes just sag in there and try and, reach at the ball or try and sag off their guy and help help like a Brook Lopez who was getting drove on, and then bam, Sabonis would kick it out to a wide open guy and hit a three. That's happened so many times. Just look out for that. Hopefully it doesn't happen much lately because it has been getting better, but it's going to happen from time to time. But still, in this Pacers game, there were numerous times, specifically this one, where Sabonis is driving, and Dante and Drew get caught with this a lot, where they just like to get a hand in there and try and steal it because they're active on defense. They get a lot of steals, and sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's doesn't help the Bucks at all and leads to wide open three-pointers, hence why we were giving up 20-plus three-pointers a game for those 3 games. So they're just... on that play specifically, Dante was kind of there, but he stayed on his guy. Holiday stayed on his guy. And when, when Sabonis got into the paint, he tried to, stop his drive and move his pivot foot, and Giannis was right there to block him. I mean, because he knew he was trying to put the shot up, and Giannis was just like, okay, now it's time for me to help and block this shot and get a fast break opportunity for the Bucks, which it did. So just be on the lookout for that. Like I said, I hope it doesn't happen again, but I'm sure you guys have noticed, specifically guys like Dante and Drew and even Augustine at times, when someone gets a little bit beat off the ball on defense for the Bucks, you'll see those guys around the 3, the guard, just get in there and try and stop the driver a little bit. And then sometimes it leads to kicking out to the 3, and that guy either makes or misses the shot. But I think the Bucks have really gotten better at that, and that's something they must have noticed in the tape, because I was definitely seeing it, where guys were just over helping when they didn't need to. It's like, you're right there. Like, sometimes Drew, when he's an on-ball defender too, like, it looks like the guy has a little bit of a step on him, but he's really aggressive on D and gets in guys' faces. Like, even if he's a little bit like a half step behind, he's still in perfect position to defend a shot. So there's a lot of times where like a Brook Lopez will come in and sag, and then bam, the point guard will just get a little shovel pass to the big guy, and they just dunk on us. It's just bad defensive principles that often lead to easy buckets, whether in the paint, on that example I just gave you with Drew being the on-ball defender, or kicking it out to an open three-point shooter where a Brook or a Giannis or really anyone is getting a little bit beat off the dribble, and they kick it out to a wide-open three-point shooter because a Dante or a Drew or one of our guards just overhelps and tries to steal the ball away when really they didn't need to. So I think it's just the Bucks staying true to their defensive assignments has been a main driver for them in defending the 3 better, because it was getting bad, as we all know. I mean, I was super down about the Bucks, after those 2 losses. I thought that 3-game mini road trip they had, Toronto, New Orleans, and Charlotte, I thought they'd go 2-1 at least, and hoping for a 3-0. Going 1-2 and winning the one game that I thought they might lose, I mean, that was tough, and it was hard to be positive on the Bucks at that point in time. But they really stepped it up here these last 4 games and have just played fantastic. And we'll talk about the Cleveland Cavalier games here shortly, but just having leaders on the team like Giannis, Middleton, and Drew to really understand what's going on and trying to fix things. And I think Drew has been really important for us in terms of changing our defensive schemes. Not saying that Budenholzer didn't want to do that. He has been doing it, but I think Drew just comes from that scheme where he's used to switching 1 through 5 if you have a versatile enough team to switch 1 through 5 or even 1 through 4. So that's just what he's used to, and he was getting tripped up by this drop coverage that Bud likes to run on defense. So I think I'm sure he's pushed Coach Bud to get to the switching mindset a little bit more, and obviously it's been working. And again, it's going to look ugly at times. It's just going to happen. Teams have duds in the NBA all the time, and you don't like to have them 2 games in a row like they did about 10 days ago. But again, it's going to happen, and the Bucks have rebounded extremely well from then. And here we are, 14-8, looking good, playing great basketball, and a lot of things to look forward to. And we got a tough 4 games here on the road, and this is really going to show a lot about this Bucks team. We have a chance to get a win against an elite team. I think Denver has a borderline elite roster. I wouldn't say elite roster, but borderline. But they're struggling this year. But I still think that'd be a huge win for the Bucks on the road. Even a team like Phoenix, who is a playoff team out west, that would be a huge win. Utah has the best record in out west, so a win for the Bucks again on the road against Utah, that's an elite team. That would be just a huge statement win for them. And OKC is one of those teams like Charlotte where the record isn't outstanding, but they're going to battle every game. They got young players who want to prove themselves and want to show that they can play in this league. And teams like that are very dangerous, who kind of have nothing to lose, and that's definitely like an OKC. So really tough games here coming up. I'm looking forward to them. Be on the lookout for how the Bucks try and stop Jokic. I mean, I think Brook Lopez is a pretty good, he's a good matchup for Jokic. I mean, Jokic isn't a barn burner. He's not super quick, but he's really crafty and he can drive, and his passing is unbelievable. I mean, he's a borderline. He is an MVP candidate this season, but he has just been absolutely insane this year. So look to see how the Bucks try and defend him. Jamal Murray is obviously a dynamic player. I think Drew can match up with him just fine. If he's making tough shots, I mean, he can hit those step back threes like Damian Lillard can. We all saw what he did in the bubble last year. It hasn't quite been there this year. He's been up and down, but going to be a tough matchup for the Bucks. Michael Porter Jr., a very versatile defender, but I think the Bucks match up really well with Denver. And if we're playing the way we did against Cleveland this weekend, I think we're going to walk away with a win. So can't wait to watch that one. So now what we're going to do is just go through a little bit of a roster rundown here. And just kind of say what I've been seeing from guys, what I like, what I'd like to see more, that kind of thing. So we'll start at the top with the back-to-back MVP and Giannis. He was just awarded the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. That's his first one this year. He's just dominated that award the last 2 seasons. So nice to see him get that one. A lot of that award comes with team success as well. Bucks were 4-0 last week, so that definitely helped his case. And especially when you look at the West, De'Aaron Fox won Western Conference Player of the Week. They were 4-0 this week as well. So those two kind of go hand in hand at times. So nice to see Giannis pick up that award, even though it doesn't mean anything. But averaging 24 points over the past 4 games, 11 boards, I think 6 assists, shooting 61% from the field. I mean, he is really coming into his own. I thought he looked really lost in the beginning of the season. He was pressing way too much. A lot of charges drawn on Giannis where he just trying to bull rush into the lane when there's 2-3 guys there. It just felt like he was trying too much and being stubborn a little bit. And he mentioned that in one of his post-game press conferences where he was being too stubborn. He just needed to let the game come to him more and, get the ball to his teammates when the defense dictates it. But when there's a little bit of a soft defense, bam, penetrate, slam on people like we love seeing. So I think Giannis is finally playing in the constraints of the offense and just getting guys involved. He's making the right plays. He had 2 games in a row. I believe it was the game against Portland and against Indiana, back-to-back games where he didn't attempt a 3. Since we've had Giannis, we are 9-0 in those games where there's been 9 games where he didn't shoot a 3 and we're 9-0 in those games. So, I don't hate when he shoots 3 sometimes, but those early shot clock 3s I can't stand. Even if they go in, it's great that it goes in, but it's just in the back of your mind, you're like, that's not a good shot. So, him just not, pressing, letting the game come to him. He's been dynamic playmaker the past week for the Bucks, and he just finally looks like the old Giannis, the back-to-back MVP that we have seen. So I think Giannis has been fantastic. A really nice stat here. Giannis's last 27 free throws, he's 22 for 27. I can just tell that he looks so much more comfortable on the free throw line. And again, I've said numerous times on this podcast that it feels like it's like one game he has a good free throw shooting night, one game he has a bad one. But he's finally starting to string a couple good games in a row, and 22 for 27 is great. If he could keep that up, that's going to be huge for the Bucks. And he's getting really nice arc on his free throws these past few games, and just his form looks great. And they're starting to fall for him, so that's huge for the Bucks. This is what we all want, is Giannis to consistently hit his free throws, because we all know in the postseason he's going to have to make those for the Bucks to win that finals that we all want them to win. So that is the biggest stat line for Giannis here. So overall, really like what I'm seeing from him. We'll then go to the two-time NBA All-Star and Chris Middleton. Offensively, he's been a little up and down, specifically in those 2 Cleveland games, but I think Middleton needs to get the ball more. I've said this numerous times, it just feels like he gets a little, not hides on offense, but they just don't get him the ball much, and he's such a great shooter. He's easily the best shooter on the Bucks. We could talk about Bryn Forbes, we'll talk about him a little later, but Middleton's mid-range game is just so damn good. And he makes really tough threes. And, he's just super important to us. And I think that he needs to run the offense more, take more shots, be more aggressive. I think his drive game has gotten really better the last week or so. Just him being crafty, knowing how to draw fouls on guys, pump faking, let them jump into you, shoot the ball, 2 free throws, over a 90% free throw shooter. I mean, he's just looks like he's just in control of himself on offense so much more, and that's going to be huge for the Bucks. So overall, I like what I'm seeing from Middleton. I just think that one thing I'd like to see is him be more aggressive, him to take more shots, and him to take control of this offense a little bit more, because I feel like his usage just isn't as high as it should be for the dynamic offensive player that he is. So look to see that hopefully coming here in the next few games. Let's talk about my boy Jrue. I mean, there's nothing bad to really say about the guy. I mean, his defense is just elite. He's got to be on track to be first team all defense this season. He has 2 all defensive awards in the past. I don't know how he hasn't had more, probably because his teams haven't been that great when he was in New Orleans specifically. But again, I mean, his defense is just absolutely elite. I mean, the way he locked up Damian Lillard, Malcolm Brogdon shot, I think, below 40% from the field against the Bucks. Had a very off game for him, and he's been balling this season. Could be an all-star for the Pacers this year, averaging 23 points a game. I mean, Jrue has just been nothing short of spectacular, and he's starting to take control of the game on offense a little bit more too. I'm going to say the same thing I said about Middleton. I think Jrue needs to take more shots, have the ball more, drive, get guys involved. His drive game is so smooth. I mean, he's so strong at 6'3", 205. I mean, when you see him in there just backing guys up, like, he just does these little hesitations, little shot fakes, and just a lot of times generates really easy layups for himself because he's just so poised with the ball, super strong, great finisher at the rim. I'd love to see him drive the ball more, and he's a great passer as well. We've all seen a lot of his Aaron Rodgers type full court throws to guys like Giannis and Middleton, cherry picking after a rebound or something like that, where he just throws it on the dime right to Giannis and just slams it. I mean, he's so aware of everything on the court, and he's such a complete player offensively and defensively. I can't wait to see him just get better throughout the whole season, and I have no doubt in my mind that he will. And I hope to see him just dominate in the playoffs like he did in that playoff series against the Portland Trailblazers a few years back when they had Anthony Davis alongside Jrue Holiday in New Orleans. So, I mean, you can't say anything bad about the guy right now. He's just been absolutely sensational for the Bucks, and look for that to only get better, and look for him to take more control of this team, and I cannot wait for it. Let's talk about my boy Dante. So, man, he had a rough stretch there, specifically that little mini road trip where we went 1-2, and even, from like a span of 10 games, probably ending against the Trailblazers on Monday, when his worst game was against Charlotte, 0 points in 25 minutes. I mean, that's just a joke for a starter to have 0 points. I mean, it couldn't get much worse than that, but I thought he was just shooting nothing but bricks during that time. You'll notice this a lot with Dante, is that early on in games and even throughout the games, he tries to get himself involved. He tries to get to the lane and make little floaters, little layups in the lane. And sometimes he does. This last week, he's done a lot better with that. Even though it looks very helter-skelter when he's doing it, he finds ways to put the ball in the basket. Just be on the lookout for that. Specifically early in games, they tried getting Dante the ball early on against Indiana on Wednesday, and he hit a couple threes in the first quarter. He had a nice drive to the lane where, again, it just looked like, what are you doing, Dante? But, wow, nice shot. All right, get back on defense and let's do it again. So just be on the lookout for that. He definitely is one of those guys who likes to try and get to the lane when it really doesn't look like it's going to work. And, the results are all over the place. But I thought he was, quite possibly one of the worst Bucks in that span of about 10 games, ending with that Charlotte game. but he's really picked it up lately, and his defense has been pretty steady throughout. Even that rough stretch of 10 games there has been a lot better. So, look for him to just be able to make shots. He gets a lot of open shots on this team when you got guys like Giannis, Drew, and Middleton driving to the lane, kicking it out to open shooters. He's got to be able to make those. And it still has not been consistent. We obviously saw the insane production through the first 10 games where he was shooting 60% from three, and that dipped to in the 30s for the next 10 games. And then again, it was at 8 games. And then the next 4 games here, he shot pretty damn well. So just for Dante, it's really just knowing his role on offense, not trying to do too much, and being able to knock down open shots. That's what we need from him. And if he's able to do that, the Bucks are going to have great success in the rest of the regular season and hopefully in the playoffs as well. So just look for Dante to know his role on offense and knock down open shots. One more note on him is I thought he's been running the pick and roll pretty well lately. Him and Giannis have really executed some nice pick and rolls, specifically in that Indiana game where, Dante he would try and take it to the hole after Giannis screens for him, and he has some really nice little passes to Giannis, easy dunks. Again, just stuff like that where a lot of times he tries to take that shot. But if you got Giannis in there, on that pick and roll, he's got a little bit of an opening. Give him the ball. Even if you've got a nice looking shot, give Giannis the ball. He's either going to dunk it or make a play for someone else. So, again, just Dante letting the game come to him a little bit and knowing his role, knocking down open shots. That's what we need from him. So hopefully he can continue doing that. He's had some nice performances here. 16 points. He had one game, 11 points, 7 and 6 were his stat lines for points the last 4 games. So much better after that 0-point game against Charlotte. So hopefully my boy can keep it up. Let's talk about Brook Lopez a little bit here. He's been up and down. His shooting hasn't been spectacular this season. I think he's hovering he's at 35% from 3, which isn't bad for a big center like him, but I think he's got to be hovering right around 40, 38, 39 even. That would be a lot better for Brook Lopez because he takes a lot of shots. He takes a lot of threes, and you don't really know what you're going to get from him game to game. He's definitely a streaky shooter, but he can knock them down, and I'm fine with Lopez taking open shots because we've seen what he can do in the past. But for me, for Brook Lopez, it's the defense that I'm a little concerned about, and it's not his shot blocking. His shot blocking has still been there, but it's just in terms of this new switching style that we're going to, it's tough for him because when you have athletic bigs who can shoot the 3, he gets exposed a lot of the time. Again, it's what happened in the Toronto series where Marc Gasol started knocking down shots. He was leaving the 3-point shooter wide open, and when they made him, that's when the Bucks started losing that series. And I really start to worry now when they try to switch that it's not going to be that where he's, because he's going to be up on the guy. He's not going to be dropping in the paint like he would in that drop coverage. So he's going to be on the guard. And his on-ball defense, obviously against guards, is not great. He doesn't have quick feet. He's going to get beat a lot most of the time by these quick guys. And it's going to force guys to help. Shooters are going to get open on the opposing team. And you know what that leads to a lot of the time. So that's just one thing that really concerns me about Lopez is the way that we're changing our defensive scheme. It does not fit him very well. Honestly, I would not be surprised if the Bucks maybe look to trade Brook Lopez before the trade deadline. I don't think it's going to happen, but just don't be too surprised if you start to hear rumors of Bucks looking to make a trade. Brook Lopez is really one of the only tradable assets we have. Dante obviously is too, but Brook Lopez is making $14 million a year, or 12. Yeah, I think it's 12 million. Sorry. So yeah, he's making 12 million a year. And he's a guy that you're going to throw in a trade because, he has value as a 3-and-D big man. A lot of teams would like a guy like Brook Lopez who can knock down shots and block shots like he can be an anchor for their defense or defense going forward. But just don't be surprised if the Bucks look to make some sort of move at the trade deadline if they're not satisfied. Maybe a guy who can spread the floor a little bit more, is a little more athletic at the center position. More of a modern NBA center. I can't really think of a name here that would be realistic for the Bucks, but just don't be surprised if something like that happens. I don't think it will, but crazier things have happened in this league. So overall, I'm just a little concerned about our new defensive scheme and how it doesn't really fit Brook Lopez on defense. So we'll see how that plays out. I think it's been a little bit of up and down here the past week or so. We'll quickly run down some of the bench guys. We'll start with Bryn Forbes. I mean, he's been so great for the Bucks, especially this past week. There's 5 NBA players who are shooting over 50% from 3 when they're wide open from 3, uncontested 3-pointers. Bryn Forbes is one of those guys shooting 50% on wide open, uncontested threes. I mean, he's been one of the best shooters in the NBA. Our best 3-point percentage shooter, hovering right around 45%. He's been fantastic. 6 for 6 for 3 against Cleveland on Saturday. I mean, he is definitely gaining confidence with this team. Him and Giannis definitely have a connection, and he's just been huge for us. Like I said in a prior episode, I would not be shocked at some point if Bryn Forbes ends up starting over Dante. I don't know if it makes sense from a spark perspective. I think Bryn Forbes provides much more of a spark coming off the bench on offense just because he can make shots. But I think he fits better in our starting lineup than Dante does just because he can make shots consistently. And, Giannis is going to be looking for him when he's driving to the lane. Drew, Middleton as well. So I still think Dante will end up holding on to that position unless he really fades here, which I hope that doesn't happen because we need him. But look for that to possibly happen where Bryn Forbes takes over for Dante in the starting lineup. And not only has his shooting been great, his defense has been pretty solid as well. I mean, he's moved his feet really well. He's not a super quick guy, but he's pretty stocky for his size, 6'2", 6'3", pretty small for a shooting guard in the modern NBA. But I thought he's moved his feet pretty well, and he generated some steals and just has been active on defense, which is all you want from a guy like that who has not the best defensive skills. So he's been so big for the Bucks coming off the bench, and if his shooting continues, I mean, look out for this team. It's really exciting. So what a great signing by John Horst. 1-year minimum deal for Bryn Forbes. He played for Coach Popovich for his first 4 years in San Antonio. Comes from that Budenholzer system. I mean, just has been a home run signing for the Bucks here. I can't wait to see what he does for us going forward. We'll talk about Bobby Portis. I mean, like I said, offensively has been nothing short of spectacular for the Bucks. He has been knocking down threes, little floaters in the lane. I mean, he looks like he's in control at all times when he's got the ball in the block. And I just love his energy that he brings. He's got that dog mentality, getting in guys' faces when he makes shots, screaming and yelling when he flexing on dudes when he makes shots. I mean, you love a guy like that. You usually don't like guys like that when they're not on your team, but when they are, they're great. Look at like a Draymond Green, for example. I'm not a huge fan of him, but God, if he was on the Bucks, I'd love him. Marcus Smart as well. Drives me insane every time we play the Celtics, but I would absolutely love him if he was on our team. Bobby Portis is one of those guys who's just got that dog mentality to him, just comes with energy off the bench, and he's just been so big for the Bucks. Getting right around 20 minutes a game, honestly, I'd like to see him closer to 25. Like I was saying with Brook Lopez kind of not fitting our defensive scheme, I think Bobby Portis fits it a lot better than Brook. He can move his feet. He doesn't have the shot blocking at all that Brook Lopez has, but he can switch 1 through 5. He obviously struggles against guards when he's guarding them, but he's quick. He can move his feet, and I just think that he fits our defensive scheme a little bit better, which is why why I think that there's a possibility the Bucks could make a trade with Brook Lopez before the trade deadline. That's a hot take for me. We'll see if it happens, but again, Portis has been nothing short of spectacular. Excuse me. Torrey Craig. Let's talk about Torrey Craig a little bit. Finally starting to get minutes for the Bucks consistently, right around that 15-minute per game mark. Since he has started getting minutes for the Bucks, his defense has been spectacular. I think the first game he started getting minutes was that Toronto game. And he's a lengthy defender. He's had some really nice shot blocks. His offense is rough, and you can see that he's got a slow release for his shots. He's made a couple threes and had some nice dunks, but he doesn't have much of a skill set on offense. But that's fine. We don't need him to be an offensive presence for us. We need him for his defense. His on-ball defense is great. He's got really long arms, kind of like a George Hill, but he's taller at 6'7", 6'8". Great shot blocker, really good rebounder as well. Just look, when he comes out on the court, he's kind of like a mix between a George Hill and a Connaughton in terms of what he does on defense. So George Hill was great on-ball defender, really long arms. His feet weren't as quick as they were in the past, but he could get in those passing lanes, steal the ball, go in transition, and make a nice play. Craig is a really nice passer as well. That's why I kind of think he's like George Hill was. So he's got that mix of George Hill, and then he's got the mix of Connaughton where he's all over the boards. Just look at Torrey Craig when he's out there. He's going after every rebound, and I mean, he's just the perfect fit for this Bucks team. I'm so freaking happy that they're finally playing him and stop playing Thanasis in those minutes. I mean, I really liked Thanasis that first game he started playing for the Bucks. I think it was against the Heat, but I mean, he just dipped immediately after that and just virtually was unplayable at that point in time. And obviously he's only getting garbage time minutes at this point in time. So again, Craig has been huge for us and a big reason why we've been playing better on defense. So I've been nothing but pleased with his performances for the Bucks for the past almost 2 weeks since he's been getting consistent minutes off the bench. And again, just look out for him on defense. Look at how active he is. Great on-ball defender, really active on the rebounds, and also is a very underrated passer. So kind of that mix of a George Hill, Pat Connaughton in terms of what he does on defense and attacking the rebounds. So love what I'm seeing from Torrey Craig. Let's talk about my guy, quote unquote, and DJ Augustin. I've ripped him a lot on this podcast, but I think he's getting better. And you can see it. He's starting to make shots. I mean, he's made some tough threes. I mean, deep threes, catch and shoot threes, off the dribble threes. And he's always been a great shooter. That's one of the reasons why I wanted the Bucks to sign him in the offseason was because he's been over 40% shooting from three more often than not in his NBA career. And I just didn't realize like how small he looks out there. And early on in the season, he was really trying to drive to the lane and get some shots at the rim, and just it was not working at all. But he's definitely reduced that, and he's a great playmaker when he's on the dribble, driving. Even when he gets in the lane, sometimes he like jumps up, makes some like crazy like passes while he's in the air, and gets multiple guys to go at him, and so which ends up leading to open shooters for the Bucks. So he made a really nice play against the Cavs on Saturday where 3 defenders were on him because he was driving in the lane, and bam, dishes it to a wide open 3-point shooter, and we knocked it down. So that's what DJ needs to do. Hit his open, or just take open shots. He's been making them. So when he's open and can get that shot off without someone blocking it, he's got to take those shots and just make plays off the dribble for guys. He's been doing that a lot better, and I like what I'm seeing from him. His defense obviously still is very suspect, but he's quick still for an older player. Just gets dominated by guards because he's very short. But again, he does try on defense, so that's all you ask for a guy like that, like I said with Bryn Forbes. So I thought DJ Augustin is really starting to find his role at this team, and he's going to be huge for the Bucks. He's our backup point guard unless we make a trade coming up at the trade deadline, or maybe explore the buyout market after that. We're stuck with DJ Augustin. He's got to play better, and I think he has. So again, I've really ripped him on this podcast, but overall, I think he's trending upward the past week or so. So we'll talk a little bit about Pat Connaughton. I mean, there's not much there. I mean, his shooting has just been up and down, up and down, up and down all season. I think he needs to, cut back on those deep threes that he takes sometimes, catch and shoot threes. I mean, he can hit them, but I mean, he's not been very consistent with those deep threes. Overall, he's been okay. Not really much to report from him. I still like him to get some minutes, but I really like Bryn Forbes a lot better, to be honest. He's played so much better. I mean, it really comes down to shooting for those backup guards, and obviously Bryn Forbes has been one of the best shooters in the NBA this season, and Pat Connaughton has not. So still fine with him getting right around 10 to 12 minutes. Don't want it to be much more than that. Usually he's right around that 15-minute per game mark, but not too much going on with Pat Connaughton. So just hopefully he can keep continuing to start making some shots, and he's active on defense. He's attacking the rebounds at all times as well, and I overall like Pat. So can't complain with him. You got to have some guys to get some minutes off the bench, and Pat's gonna get minutes throughout the whole season. So hopefully he can just continue that a little bit and play a little bit better on offense specifically. I think he's actually a much better finisher at the rim than people give him credit for. He runs a really nice pick and roll game with Giannis as well. They have great chemistry. They're really good friends. And Pat has made some really nice layups look pretty easy. And I think that's a very underrated part of his game. So overall, Pat Connaughton is just kind of, a wash right now. Not up, not down, but playing okay, and just needs to continue to stay ready off the bench and hopefully provide a spark for this Bucks team. So, I mean, those are obviously the guys who are getting minutes here. There's not really anything else to report from a roster rundown perspective. So that's really what I've been seeing here the past 2 weeks for the Bucks. And again, really excited to watch them play Denver tonight, and hopefully they can walk away with a win. And hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you stay up to date on all my future content when it is posted on YouTube. And again, follow me on Twitter at downtown_Brown and at Instagram at downtown_Brown33. Thanks again, guys, and go Bucks.